Hi and welcome to the next.app devCon podcast. I am Sriyank, head of developers community for reactCon, a React Native event taking place at next.app devCon Berlin. So from October 7 to 9, this conference will witness world's largest gathering of mobile developers at one place. Today I am here with Ola Desmurs-Linczewska, program committee member of reactCon. Ola is a senior React and React Native developer currently working at Callstack. Ola, hi and welcome.
Hi, I'm very happy to be here. And thank you for trying to read my last name. It's a complicated last name. It's like part French, part Polish, all the difficult parts. I'm a senior React and React Native developer. As you said, I've been working at Callstack for 4.5 years, but I've been working with React Native a little bit longer. And I'm fascinated by InfoSec and CyberSec and all sorts of cybersecurity topics.
Yeah, I think, thanks for the intro, by the way. So your last name was a bit difficult for me, but I tried my best.
You did very well.
Yeah. So Ola, you have been working at Callstack for a long time, building React Native applications and doing security audits. So I'm just curious about your thoughts on making React Native apps more secure, and why should a React Native developer take it more seriously?
Yes, so the thing is with security that for a lot of people, it's an afterthought because we get the designs, we get the screens to be built, and nobody really has the time to think about security. And this is one of those things that bites you at the end, right? Because if you didn't think about it from the beginning, then you may be missing some very important features, or you are a victim of an attack. And you have to, apologize to your customers. Yeah, that happens a lot. There are so many horror stories out there about apps that were not secured, and then they did get into trouble. And as I said, I'm fascinated with cybersecurity. So I went to devCon last year, the devCon conference in Las Vegas. And I was very surprised at how small the presence of mobile security topic was. I mean, there was at devCon, you have like this big space where you have villages, and different topics have the different villages, like gaming or car hacking or whatever. And then for the mobile app village, it was just like one tiny table at the very back. So I was very surprised. I hope next year we're gonna have more in even bigger space, because everybody has a phone. It's practically a small computer that you're carrying around with yourself, and you have so much data on there, right? You have your banking, your address, your work stuff, and we just don't pay enough attention to it.
Yeah, I think I sense that you're trying to say that React Native developers have a false sense of security in mobile. This leads to my next question. Are all JavaScript security issues also present in React Native apps? Or does the mobile environment gives developers any default safety layers that they trust upon to build their React Native applications?
So I would say that 90% of issues carry over, because it's still JavaScript. It still faces the same problems as all the JavaScript stuff that we have on web. And we know that JavaScript, as much as I love that programming language, it's not the safest programming language. So the programmers, like the developers, do have a false sense of security when they do mobile apps. They feel like, oh, it's not a website, but it sort of is, because it's still JavaScript, right? And it's still it still faces the same issues. So we could even say that there are some additional problems that may be discovered. We're still working it all out. It's compared to like React Native, compared to JavaScript, is a newer technology, we could say. So we're still discovering things. As you probably heard, last December there was the React to Shell vulnerability that was discovered. Mm-hmm. So there was React, not React Native, but potentially there can be so many other issues that we will discover in the coming years.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's the issue, definitely, yeah. So you mentioned about XXX earlier, which is cross-site scripting. And that actually connects to something you told me earlier. You saw that many developers did not sanitize forms in React Native, which later leads to possible SQL injection and XXS vulnerabilities. So why do you think a React Native developer would miss sanitizing their forms? And what could be the potential risk due to such ignorance?
Yeah, so XSS is very interesting. So that's cross-site scripting. So the first thing mobile developers would think is, okay, so this is this typical JavaScript issue that you have on websites, that somebody puts in the script tags on a form and then it gets executed on the website when the form is not sanitized. Then we get to React Native. So like the first thought is, okay, but we have the text tags in React Native. So this what is actually shown is just string literals, and it's not going to be the code is not going to be executed. So we're safe. The thing is that the hackers are developing as well. They are developing their ideas, so they can use the basic idea of cross-site scripting, of injecting something into an unsanitized form. Try to do either an SQL injection or maybe something else. Maybe try to put a link in there, or maybe they will discover some other vulnerability. So even if the basic XSS cross-site scripting that the like the basic JavaScript is vulnerable to on web, okay, the basic attack is not gonna happen on React Native, but the hackers may figure out something a little more complex, something that has been observed in the security the security space. I know the newer attacks that are happening are very often chained attacks. So what is happening is that the bad guys are figuring one small thing and another and a third, and they're chaining them together. So we need to make very certain that we do not give them a point of entrance. And unsanitized forms, even at first glance, you think, no, it's fine. It's React Native. It's you cannot inject code simply into the form. You don't know how it may be used in a chained attack or maybe in some new sort of attack. And there's also SQL injections and so many other things that just can go wrong if you do not sanitize your forms. Plus, it's so easy to sanitize forms. Just do it, folks.
Just do it. Well, that sounds terrible. Like hackers are getting smarter, and it also sounds like,
and they are using AI as well, right? So you have so many newcomers that use AI. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so it sounds like these vulnerabilities slip through because teams assume their security measures are working. And you actually saw this with SSL pinning, right? You saw a case where SSL pinning appeared to be set up, but failed silently when it couldn't reach the certificate. So how do you actually verify that your security controls are working and not just giving you a false sense of protection?
Yeah, so you need multiple layers of checks. This case was very interesting because at first glance, it looked very well. SSL pinning was implemented. If you tried just to take the APK file and try to listen in on the traffic, it was not possible. This is what SSL pinning is protecting us from, right? In apps. So the app is checking that the backend that the endpoint they're connecting to is actually the one they're supposed to be connecting to and not some man in the middle. So at first glance, you take the app, you check, okay, I cannot sniff on the traffic from the app because there's SSL pinning, cool. Then we looked into the code, and that's only where we found this vulnerability. Maybe if some hacker were doing some, try and error, they would also find this vulnerability in this app. But this is why you need multiple layers of security. Like the first line of defense that you have is static code analysis. This is where you write your code in your repository and you can use different tools. There are very cool tools out there like Snyk, or you can have some GitHub bots also checking your code for vulnerabilities, and just read your code. You can tell your AI bots to read some of it, but then you need to have real people who look into the code and go through it and check that, okay, this function actually does what it's supposed to do, and it errors and finds the errors the way it's supposed to find the errors, and it falls back to where it's supposed to fall back. So that's your static code analysis. Then you have your dynamic code analysis. That's when people will actually take your working app and test it in like a real environment. This is often related to penetration testing as well. So this is maybe something more interesting for people who write apps that are more problem prone, maybe some like banking, stuff like that. Then it's better to do penetration testing as well. But the more layers you have if you have static code analysis, people doing PR reviews, and some dynamic code analysis, that's very useful.
Yeah. So we can't really trust that security controls work without testing them. So when you are auditing a React Native app, dependencies, of course, which is basically hundreds or even thousands of NPM packages. So how do you evaluate the security risk without going insane? Like, is there a defined framework or a decision tree that you follow?
So the framework, there is an awesome framework. So glad you asked. We have the OWASP Foundation, Open Web. Oh my gosh, I can't remember all the letters, but it's OWASP. Yeah, they have this very cute. Yeah, they have a very cute WASP logo, and they do every year. So they have the whole framework where they describe every sort of vulnerability that has been discovered today, and then every year they do a top 10 for websites. And they have been trying to do the same for mobile. So for a couple of years, it wasn't getting updated too often. But the last 2 years, we have gotten it. We have gotten 2024 and 2025 top 10 mobile vulnerabilities, and that's an awesome starting point. You take your app and you go through 10 points. 10 points is not too much, right? It's just 10 points. You go one by one and check if my app is vulnerable to this particular thing, What is absolutely great about the framework is that they also give you guides on how to check for the particular vulnerability, how it could be exploited. It has so much information. I mean, the good people at OWASP are just amazing. As I mentioned before, you can also use tools like Snyk or the GitHub's Dependabot. You can run npm audit on your code to make sure that you don't have anything bad. And if you are using PNPM with your app, there's actually a very nice feature that was added recently. You can set a minimum age of an npm dependency that you are downloading. So what has been observed with supply chain vulnerabilities? So supply chain is exactly the NPM issues, right? If somebody like a bad actor took over an NPM library, they publish some bad code, and you update your app, and you pull in the bad NPM library. What has been observed so far is that very often the bad actor will add their malicious code, and they get discovered after a couple of hours, like a day maximum. It's discovered that there's some bad code, and the version of the library is pulled back. So what you can set in PNPM is that there's a minimum age of an NPM library that has to be like the minimum release age, actually. That the latest release has to be done like at least a day or 2 days ago, and then only then you can update to this release. And that will also help you keep safer, at least from that type of attacks.
Yeah. So there is basically a risk versus pragmatism balance. Now, speaking of new risk, you mentioned earlier, you also mentioned about this in this podcast as well. You went to a conference and you heard that, AI capabilities are making apps more vulnerable to some security issues. I'm just curious to know, why do you think in this new era of AI, the React Native developers should be more concerned and conscious about adding new AI features to their apps?
So that's a great question. We just got a little bit crazy about AI, right? We're just adding it everywhere, right? You probably saw like Clawbot and people just going insane a little bit. And it's a new toy. We like to play with it. So we do. and we don't necessarily take the time to analyze what we are putting in the hands of our users. The biggest vulnerability related to AI is prompt injection. So as you can probably imagine, it's just that bad actors tell the AI chatbots to do something they're not supposed to do. Whenever you're adding AI capabilities to your app, you have to be very conscious of that. And so at last devCon, one of the cases that was one of the talks that was given was about iOS, and they were showing this. There's a feature in iPhoto, whatever the photo app on iOS, that you can have like hidden images that like a secret. You can like hide the images. So you can take a picture with your phone, and then you can say, okay, this is a secret one, so don't show it in my gallery. Because I don't know, it's a picture of a gift for your wife and you don't want your wife to see, whatever. Or maybe something else. But the thing is that you have also Siri on your phone. And the guy who was giving the talk, he discovered that you can ask Siri to show you a preview of the picture. You could say like, show me all the pictures in the gallery or whatever, show me the last picture. And Siri would show a preview of the picture. So that defeats the purpose of having the picture being hidden. That, like, it's right. It was like, they didn't think of it when they were adding AI and all so they added, since it was discovered, even before giving the talk, there was a responsible disclosure. So Apple was informed, and this no longer happens on iPhones, but it did happen for a little bit. And that little bit when it happens with AI is when you're at risk. You don't know what can happen. So this was only just this one talk that I went to about iOS, but there was also a big talk. Big talk that the entire topic of the talk was that for the people who do security audits for apps, they need to add a new check into like their list. So they have their, let's say, their OWASP top 10 that they're checking. Maybe there's something else that they're checking usually, and now they need to add a new point in their list where they need to check if there are AI capabilities in the app. And then there are so many other things that you need to check if AI capabilities are in the app, that you need to check for prompt injection or for anything that the AI in the app has access to. I mentioned Clawbot. So if anybody is using Clawbot, you know that on the homepage it says that if you use this tool, you give it access to your entire operating system. So maybe somebody builds an app and they add their AI and they let it access all sorts of data in the app. I don't know. It's people just build different weird things, and it just opens a new door that the security analysts need to look into.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like mobile security landscape is expanding and new threats are also emerging, right? And most important, React Native developers should be more aware of them. And I think this was quite an important podcast on security. My next question is a bit of a generic one. As a program committee member of reactCon, you will soon be reviewing the React Native CFPs for reactCon Berlin, right? So as an expert, what would you like to see in those submissions that could help React Native developers attending the conference?
I'm so excited to be a program committee for this conference, since it's so big, and I love the idea of how it's connecting the entire universe of mobile apps, because we are essentially building the same end product. So it's really great to talk amongst ourselves. It's awesome. What I would like to see, I would like to see more security topics, security oriented talks. So that's a given. And I do appreciate technical talks. So as much as you can put in your description that technically like this, you're showing this technique or this library or whatever. I'm a little bit allergic to talks that will want to showcase AI, because I'm just tired of it. There's so much AI talk.
Yeah.
And when I look at any conference description and I see a talk that's titled "How to Use Your AI Better," I don't care. I seriously, there's just, if I want to use my AI better, I can read one of the million articles that are out there. So just please try to figure out something new. Yes. If it's security oriented, great. It doesn't have to be, because I also love other topics. I wrote a book about state management in React Native, so that's a topic close to my heart as well. The topic of animations is very interesting, how to have a performant app that really feels native, but also is not laggy. So there's really a lot of interesting topics out there that I would love to hear talks on.
Yeah, definitely. I also feel the same. So that's why at next.app devCon, we are having a separate event of AI devCon, which will, include the AI enthusiast, AI mobile enthusiast to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And we will have dedicated tracks about developers talking about AI on stage. So that is going to...
And there's still...
yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, because there is still interesting things to say about AI. Just don't like the generic how to use your AI copilot better. That's what so much of it. But there are interesting things to say about AI and learn.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So I think, Ola, it's time to move on to our next segment of this podcast. I like this segment a lot. So it's called Would You Rather Rapid Fire Round. I will give you impossible choices to make. Just pick one fast, okay?
Yeah.
No need to think too much, just pick one. So would you rather use 500 NPM packages or write everything from scratch?
Everything from scratch.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay. Would you rather fix an XSS vulnerability or a broken SSL pinning implementation?
I'd prefer to fix an SSL pinning implementation. It feels safer.
Yeah. Would you rather test security continuously or do one big audit before the launch?
Continuously. There's like no doubt there. Continuously. Do it all the time.
All that time.
Regularly. Like going to the dentist. Just do it.
Yeah. Would you rather audit every line of code before it ships or catch vulnerabilities in production with extensive monitoring?
Gosh, that's a tough one, because it's so hard to edit every line of code and like try to stay step ahead of the people on the other side. So if there's really great monitoring, let's catch it with but really, really great monitoring.
Yeah. Would you rather work with a developer who ignores security or one who is paranoid about everything?
Paranoid. I prefer paranoid. Let's go that way.
That way, yeah.
Then the paranoid guy will audit all the lines of code and I can just do the monitoring in production.
Yeah, that's a smart choice then. Would you rather have a 100-page security guide with 0 examples or live exploit demos with no explanation?
Oh, live exploit demos, definitely, because I love reverse engineering. So I would look at the demos and try to figure out how they worked.
Yeah. Would you rather have React Native forced security best practices or let developers choose their own approach?
Let's force them. Let's force everybody to be secure, because we've been letting people do their own thing, and there's so many issues out there. Let's force them. I don't care.
Yeah, so I think that was fun. I mean, thank you, Ola, for joining us in this podcast. If anyone watching is a React Native developer and has been working on anything interesting, we really want to hear from you. Our call for papers is now open. Submit your talk to reactCon, a React Native event at next.app devCon Berlin. The link to submit CFP is on our website. See you all in Berlin, and don't forget the dates. It's October 7 to 9. So thank you everyone for watching, and thanks, Ola, for sharing your valuable experience. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Very happy to be here, and see you in Berlin.
Yeah, definitely.
Bye.
Yeah, excited. Okay, bye.
Yeah.